Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So in the last couple of weeks, we were discussing from seventh and eighth chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So in essence, the first six chapters talks about Guni Bhuta Bhakti, where Bhakti is secondary, but their respective processes such as Nishkama Karma, Jnana, and Ashtanga Yoga are primary. And in the seventh chapter, Lord Krishna introduces Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti and Ananya Bhakti. So Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti is where Bhakti is primary and Karma, Jnana and Yoga are secondary. And Ananya Bhakti is that Bhakti in which there is no tinge of Karma, Jnana or Yoga. So these are the in total 3 plus 3 plus 1, 7 variety of sadhanas are described in Bhagavad Gita. In addition to them, there are two more things are also mentioned at other various places in the Bhagavad Gita, and hence there are total 9 variety of sadhanas that are being followed by people of this world in different modes. So the same things, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur identifies them as Guni Bhuta Bhakti and Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti and Ananya Bhakti. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan calls them as Tanishta, Tanishta Bhakti, Parinishta Bhakti, and Nirapeksha Bhakti. So, just to summarize, what are all the 9 kinds of sadhana that are being followed by different people that have been addressed from chapter 2 all the way up to chapter 7? And chapter 8 talks about the destiny of all these different 9 kinds of followers, the 9 kinds of people, what is their destiny that have been mentioned in the 8th chapter. In summary, 2nd to 7th talks about sadhana, and 8th chapter talks about uh, goal, destination. So that is how we can understand. So I'll just repeat once again for uh, proper understanding. The people who are in the mode of ignorance, generally they perform sinful activities for their immediate sense gratification. They are said to be performing vikarma without any connection to the instructions of Vedic literature. But the people in the mode of passion, they respect Vedic culture, they respect Vedic literatures, and they try to fulfill their desires by following the Vedic injunctions. And they follow the path of Sakama Karma. They follow all the Vedic literature for the purpose of fulfilling their material desires. And such kind of people, by performing so many Vedic rituals, at the end of this life, they may go to Swarga. There they enjoy sufficiently, about sufficient of time. Then they again come back and take birth. So they follow the path of darkness or path of smoke, or this path is called Pitruyana. So they follow the sadhana which is called as Sakama Karma. And then the people who are in the mode of goodness, they follow Guni Bhuta Bhakti. They actually follow Bhakti, but they cannot be called as devotees because their Bhakti is very less, very meager. Primarily, they follow Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. Because these people are in the mode of goodness, they understand going to Swarga and coming back has no meaning at all. We should work for going back to absolute truth. So mostly they desire to enter into Sahyajya Mukti, but some fortunate also want to enter into Vaikuntha. So they generally follow Nishkama Karma Yoga, that is generally called as Bhakti Mishra Karma, or they follow Jnana Yoga, that is generally called as Bhakti Mishra Jnana, or they generally follow Ashtanga Yoga, or it is called as Bhakti Mishra Yoga. And these three people combined together, they can be called as the performers of Guni Bhuta Bhakti. They are performing Bhakti under Gunas, or they also can be called as Sanishta Bhaktas. because their nishtha is not in bhakti, but their nishtha is in their own respective processes. The people who are following Nishkama Karma Yoga, their nishtha is in Varnashram duties. The people who are following Jnana Yoga, their nishtha is in performance of austerities. The people who are following yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, their nishtha is in Ashtanga Yoga process. So like that. Their nishtha in their respective process, that's why they are called as Anishta Bhaktas or Guni Bhuta Bhaktas. But superior to them are Parinishta Bhaktas, are those who follow Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. They also live in the society along with everyone. Their main life's aim is to practice bhakti, which consists of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Their main life's goal is to perform these 9 angas of bhakti and become an eternal associate of Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of his Vaikuntha planets, either attaining Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, Muktis, and trying to serve the Supreme Lord in one of the 5 rasas, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya, and Madhurya. So generally the people who are following Gunibhuta Bhakti, they either enter into Brahman and become indifferent to everything and experiencing Brahmananda, or they may enter into Vaikuntha trying to experience the opulences of Vaikuntha, like Sarishti Mukti in Shantaras. So, but these devotees who are in who are performing bhakti primarily and also performing their varnashrama duties or some jnana tendencies, some jnana tendencies of yoga tendencies, they enter into Vaikuntha, they get Sarishti, Salokya, Samipya or Sarupya liberations. So as per their inclination, they get service in any of the 5 rasas also, Shanta, Dasa, Sakya, Vasalya, Madhurya. But their perfection is always in awe and reverence. The majesty is more in their perfection than intimacy. These people are generally called as the sadhana bhaktas. And so, but finally, the same Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna introduces Ananya Bhakti. Ananya Bhakti is completely Nirguna Bhakti, which is completely beyond gunas. So these Ananya Bhaktas can also be called as Nirapeksha Bhaktas. They don't have any apeksha from this material world. They don't have anything to do, any activity of this material world. Even for their own sustenance, they don't do any varnashrama duties. They only do bhakti activities. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, and anything connected to these 9 activities. Their maintenance will be taken care by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord himself takes care of their maintenance. They don't take care of their own maintenance. So this is the level of surrender they display. But the Parinishta Bhaktas, they also have such kind of dependence on Supreme Lord, but for their maintenance and also to set a good example to the people in the society, they perform their Varnashram duties very religiously without much attachment to those duties. They do, but they are not attached to those duties. Instead, they are attached to serving the Supreme Lord. So, this is how we can see the small distinction between Parinishta Bhaktas and Nirapeksha Bhaktas, or Pradhani Bhuta Bhaktas or Ananya Bhaktas. Ananya Bhaktas are only interested in doing bhakti. They don't do any Varnashram duties. But Pradhani Bhuta Bhaktas, they do bhakti primarily and also they do Varnashram duties for their maintenance and also for them for setting a good example to the society. So all these have been explained in the previous chapters, and eighth chapter talks about the destiny. The Ananya Bhaktas go to Krishna Loka and serve the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna in one of the higher 4 rasas. Of course, 5th rasa is also there. Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya, Madhurya. These devotees, we can generally consider them to be at their sadhana level as Raganuga Bhaktas. Ananya Bhaktas are generally, are mostly Raganuga Bhaktas. and Pradhanibhuta Bhaktas mostly are Vaidhi Sadhana Bhaktas. So in that way, their perfection, the perfection of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhaktas is mostly in Aishwarya. The perfection of Raganuga Sadhana Bhaktas is mostly in Madhurya, in intimacy. So this is explained in the 8th chapter. And the people who are following Gunibhuta Bhakti are Sanishta Bhaktas. They, by following the path of light, gradually ascending from our place to all the way up to Brahmaloka, eventually they enter into Brahman or Vaikunta in Shantarat, getting Sarishti or Salokya Mukti. So this is how these different people, they practice their sadhanas, they achieve perfection. And now in the 9th chapter and 10th chapter, these chapters are called most confidential knowledge. Any other Vedic literature, by studying or by hearing from any others, we can understand about Sanishta Bhakti or Paranishta Bhakti or Gunibhuta Bhakti and Pradhanibhuta Bhakti. But the Ananya Bhakti may not be vividly described in other part of Vedic literatures. So from Lord Krishna's point of view, Bhagavad Gita is over with the 8th chapter. Now in the 9th and 10th chapters, Lord Krishna is going to give some additional knowledge to Arjuna, because Arjuna is dearmost devotee. Though this cannot be understood by reading Vedic literature on our own or any other teachers here, Lord Krishna, just to benefit us, he is going to elaborate on the aspect of Ananya Bhakti in the next 2 chapters. The primary focus of the next 2 chapters is to give us that knowledge which will help us to practice Ananya Bhakti, which will inspire us to practice Ananya Bhakti. So the next 2 chapters, their primary goal is to describe Ananya Bhakti and Ananya Bhaktas. So this is a bonus knowledge given by Lord Sri Krishna to the readers of Bhagavad Gita through the medium of Arjuna. Having stated in the 7th and 8th chapters that he, a treasure house of unlimited auspicious qualities, is easily attained by pure bhakti. Lord Krishna said, Tasyaham Sulabha Partha. For them, I make available myself very easily. So this Lord Krishna told in previous chapter in verse number Tasyaham Sulabha Partha. Which verse? 21st. Purusha sa parapartha bhaktya labhyastu ananya yasyantastani bhutani ena sarvam idam tatam. So that he speaks about by Ananya Bhakti I will be obtained. So in the previous chapter only he mentioned about Tasyaham Sulabha Partha. In one of the verses he mentioned that I will make myself available very easily to such kind of Ananya Bhaktas. In verse number 14, Ananya Cheta Satam Yoma Smarati Nityasa Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. Those devotees who are aspiring to become my eternal associate and serve me in Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya and Madhurya Rasa in the spiritual world for eternity, I make them available myself very easily by removing all their obstacles in their sadhana and bringing them to my spiritual abode. So this is the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He does not tolerate, keep his intimate devotees away from him. So this is possible by Ananya Bhakti. In this chapter, now in the 9th chapter, Lord Krishna speaks about his supreme power, Aishwarya, which cause astonishment and inspire devotion and the strength of that devotion. So this 9th chapter, whatever knowledge Lord Krishna is speaking, that Aishwarya and Jnana, that will create astonishment and it will also create inspiration to practice Ananya Bhakti in the sadhakas. And the strength of that devotion, and as well Lord Krishna speaks the great excellence of his devotee. So Uh, Ananya Bhakti can be practiced in Vaidhi sadhana also, can also be practiced in Raganuga sadhana also. Those who practice Ananya Bhakti in Vaidhi sadhana, they attain perfection in Vaikunta in the mood of awe and reverence. Those who practice Raganuga sadhana, they attain their perfection in Goloka with more intimacy. So these two people can practice pure devotional service Ananya Bhakti. The majestic aspect of the Lord as the object of worship, suitable for his devotees, and the excellence of that pure devotee are described clearly in the 9th chapter. Basically, two aspects are described. Uh, the knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that which inspire a sadhaka to practice Ananya Bhakti, and also the glories of that Ananya Bhakta is the main subject matter of 9th chapter. This is the chapter breakup. In the first three verses, hearing is the qualification and disqualification. Those who hear, they become qualified to practice Ananya Bhakti. Those who don't hear, they are disqualified. Non-envious and faithful will attain Krishna. Faithless return to the path of birth and death. And 4 to 10, Lord gives Aishwarya Jnan, how Lord is related to the material world. He creates, pervades, and annihilates the entire cosmos. 11 to 25, it talks about fools neglect bhakti, but the divine don't. So all these different verses talks about different kind of people. The Duratmas who neglect bhakti are described in 11, 12, and Mahatmas who eagerly practice Ananya Bhakti are explained in 13 and 14. And there are other people who worship the Supreme Lord indirectly. Some worship the Lord as Ekatva, the one entity, in verse number 15. They worship the Lord as Vishwatomukam, as the entire universe, verse number 16 to 19. And some worship the Lord as different devatas, Prutaktavena, from verse number 20 to 25. These are different ways of worshiping the Supreme Lord. They are described. They are further repeated in the 9th chapter, which are also mentioned in the 7th chapter briefly. The last section, 26 to 34, talks about the glories of devotional service to Krishna, or the glories of a devotee who is performing Ananya Bhakti. Pure devotional service, 26 to 28. Krishna's favoritism to his devotee, 29 to 31. And devotional service purifies everyone, that is 32 to 34. So these are the glories of Bhakti and Bhaktas that will be discussed in the last section of this chapter. So we have 34 verses, 4 sections, and the acronym given to this chapter is King, because this chapter is the most combination knowledge. In Sanskrit, the name of the chapter is Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga, because that is a verse from second verse. The title is given in second verse. So King, Raja Vidya, the most confidential knowledge. K stands for knowledge, that importance of hearing that knowledge, understanding that knowledge. I stands for inconceivable relationships that Lord has with this material world. N stands for Snan worship. There are some people who worship him, though some people who don't worship him. So that is the describing section. And G stands for glories of bhakti. So this easy to remember the entire summary of this chapter as King, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yoga. In the 7th and 8th chapters, it is described that Kevala Bhakti is extremely powerful and superior to Karma, Jnana, Yoga, and other processes that can be followed by people of this world. So this is the topic of 7th chapter. It clearly indicated that Ananya Bhakti is superior to all other bhaktis by mentioning the last verse. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam prasiddham atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. My dear Arjuna, understand that whatever is obtained by any other process can be also be obtained by Ananya Bhakti, or Ananya Bhakti can give results much superior to that can be obtained by any other process. So be always situated in that Ananya Bhakti. That is the conclusion of the 8th chapter. Having understood about all the other paths and not being bewildered by all those process, be fixed yourself in Ananya Bhakti. The ninth chapter begins to speak about the powers of the Lord required as knowledge in order to perform that pure bhakti or kevala bhakti. So before begins to start performance of bhakti, one need to understand that okay, I should perform bhakti and what bhakti is all about, for whom I should bhakti, who is that personality for whom bhakti should be practiced. So was one incident happened when Prabhupada visited Hyderabad during the temple opening of Hyderabad temple in Nampalli. So very close to the Nampalli temple, there is one big Andhra bank. The bank manager was the bank CEO was invited during the temple opening ceremony. Prabhupada was giving continuous lectures every day evening, Pandal programs. So in all the classes, Prabhupada would speak from Bhagavad Gita. In one of the class, that person got up and he spoke very loudly. He said that, so does Krishna does not feel ashamed? Why he is always speaking in all these chapters, 7 chapter, 8 chapter, 9 chapter, 10 chapter, that I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that, I am the creator, I am the maintainer, I am Indra among Devatas, I am Narada among Devarshis, I am this, I am that. So many things is being. Does he not feel ashamed? How can he say that? All these things. How can he boast about himself only? Again and again, again and again. There is no end to this. Continuously boasting for many, many chapters. Then Prabhupada became silent for some time. Then he kind of became little kind of bhavuk, and then he began to speak. Actually, Lord Krishna is not proud that he is speaking about himself, but Lord Krishna is so humble. Lord Krishna is thinking that if I don't speak about myself, how the people of this world will come to know about me? Because no one can understand about me in this world. So it is only I who know about me. Unless until I speak about me, how the people of this world will know? So with that intention, Lord Krishna speaks about himself in these chapters, specifically 7th, 9th, and 10th. 3 chapters Lord Krishna dedicates to speak about himself, so that we'll get a understanding about who Lord Krishna is all about. Otherwise, we'll never understand who Lord Krishna is. Because others, the teachers of this world, may come up with so many other theories. They may give so many other details which may not be the actual truth. So this is Arjun also says that Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidur Devana Danava. My dear Bhagavan, if you don't speak about yourself, neither the Devatas nor Asuras nor the great sages will ever know about you. Because everyone has been created by you. So what they will know about the creator unless until the creator himself speaks about him? Because before the creation there was no one, only he alone existed. If anyone want to know about him, he supposed to speak about himself. That is the only way to understand about him. So that knowledge of the Supreme Lord, which will help us to understand who he is and what we should practice to attain him, that is mentioned here. And there is one more point also which is highlighted at the beginning of 10th chapter, that is that so Lord Krishna is telling from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita that mat karma ma manusmara yuddhacha. I mean, like this, so many places. Remember me and do the fight, and I will take care of you. I will deliver you, like that. Mama eva prapadyante, mam evam tarantit, mayam yetam tarantite. So only by surrender to me, I will you will be delivered from Maya, etc. etc. Many times Lord Krishna says, "Come, surrender to me, do bhakti unto me, etc. etc." And a person, any ordinary person can question. So you are always telling me to surrender to you. What is your power to give me deliverance? What is your power to give me whatever you are promising that you are going to give me? Who are you to give me all these things? Can you tell about you? That question may come. Without being asked about that question, Lord Krishna himself tries to establish a supreme transcendental position by describing about himself in these 3 chapters, and also in fact 11th chapter also, especially in the middle section. Lord Krishna has to establish who he is. Having established his own transcendental position, he is requesting all of us to practice bhakti for our benefit. not for his benefit. So this is the greatness and this is the humility of Lord Krishna. The Gita is the essence of all scriptures. Bhagavad Gita is like in the Gita Mahatmya it is mentioned that uh, like all the Upanishads are considered to be the cow, and the essence of cow is the milk. That milk is Bhagavad Gita. So that was mentioned in the introduction. Sarvopanishato gavo dogda gopalanandao sudhir bhokta partho vassa sudhir bhokta dugdam Gitamrutam hat. So this was what Lord Krishna I mean, of course the acharyas mentioned that Lord Krishna, by becoming the cowherd man, making Arjuna as the calf, considering all the Upanishads to be cow, he extracted their essence in the form of Gita. Dugdam Gitamrutam. The nectarian Gita is like the milk of the cow of Upanishads. And later on in the Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that Veda Druma, all the Vedic literatures are compared to be a tree. The essence, the best thing one anticipates to get from a tree is the fruit. The fruit of the tree is Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you compare all the Vedic literature to be tree, the essence of the tree is fruit, that is Bhagavatam. If you compare the essence of all the Vedas to be Upanishads, and the Upanishads, summation of all the Upanishads to be cow, and that cow whose essence is milk, that milk is Gita. So in that way, if Gita is the essence of all the scriptures, and the essence of Gita is the middle 6 chapters, because first 6 chapters primarily focus on Karma Yoga, last 6 chapters primarily focus on Jnana Yoga, the middle 6 chapters primarily focus on Bhakti Yoga. And the middle of those 6 chapters is 9th and 10th chapters. The middle starts from 7 to 12, and 7, 8 will leave this side, and 9, 10, 11, 12 will leave this side. What remains in the middle is 9 and 10. And these two are considered to be very essence of the middle 6 chapters, which is the essence of the entire 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of all the Upanishads, which are the essence of all the Vedic literatures. So in one sense, the essence of all Vedic literatures is chapter 9 and chapter 10, which are describing about Ananya Bhakti. And the essence of those two chapters are from 9th chapter, the essence is verse number 934. From 10th chapter, the essence is verse number 8 to 11. These are the verses which describes about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which describes about Ananya Bhakti or pure devotional service. These are said to be the essence of entire Bhagavad Gita. So now, in the first 3 verses, Lord Krishna praises what he will be describing in chapter 9. What is that knowledge Lord Krishna willing to give to all of us, willing to benefit us by giving that knowledge, that he speaks in first 3 verses, verse number 1 to 3. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshami anusuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajnatva mokshase shubhat.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead
Supreme
said,
Personality of
My
Godhead
dear
said,
Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence.
So, same thing, whatever we discussed till now, Srila Prabhupada also kind of highlights in the first paragraph of the purport. I will just read, just to recap what we discussed till now. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, verse number 25. Lord Kapila says that one should always stay in the association of devotees and hear about Supreme Lord, then only one will understand the true nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satam prasanga mama veerya samvido bhavanti rutkarna rasayana kata तज्जोशनाद आशु अपवर्ग वर्तमनि श्रद्धा रतिर भक्तिर अनुक्रमिष्यति. It is only the true potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's powers will be manifested when we hear Krishna Katha in the association of devotees. So in that association, when we hear, our anartha are removed, our nishtha will manifest. Shraddha means nishtha, and then our taste to hear Krishna Katha will increase, and our attachment toward the service of Supreme Personality of God also will increase. That will manifest and increase. Eventually, one develops bhava and prema towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one develops bhava and prema towards Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes qualified to go back home back to Godhead. That will be possible only when we perform bhakti in the association of devotees. The message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and the potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed among devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The spiritual knowledge is not a gained knowledge or just studied knowledge, it is actually realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of devotee. Discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita till 8th chapter. So he is going to talk about the most confidential knowledge which he has not yet described in the previous chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the reciprocal dealings that are happening between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, because Arjuna is a wonderful devotee